back. Hope you're having a good day. This is my Campeche tree. It's got a lot of other nicknames. I'll put them in the title and the description. I'm going to repot it today. First though, I did take a video of this guy just before the hurricane. I believe we're going to go back to, it is September 26th. We're going to get rainy conditions starting tomorrow, and then perhaps hurricane conditions starting the day after that. So, I mean, this is my Campeche tree. It's an awesome tree. I actually been really liking the way this bark is turning out. Even got a little bit of a hollow starting. You guys probably won't be able to see that. But the bark really has some age look to it, getting all twisted. And I had planned on this, you know, just letting its momentum kind of carry on through at least fall and wait until maybe the winter winds got here before doing any more pruning. But obviously, you know, well, I say obviously, unless I tie it down in some sort, and generally speaking, I've just got too many trees to be tying down, I'm going to go ahead and get this guy quite a bit more hurricane ready here. I have been cutting back to 2 nodes above my last cut, although the more I look at this tree, I think this time I'm going to get a little more aggressive with just the apex. Most trees do have pretty good, you know, strong apical growth. And try to leave, there's one branch coming out of the top. There's the chop scar. It's really hard wood there. I haven't been able to really work on that any. I'm hoping that as it grows, it just kind of envelops it. But everything seems to be coming out of this one branch really quickly, a lot quicker than down here. And down here, I'm just going to try to take off just enough. Try to leave some momentum. Here we go. Try to leave some momentum, but take off enough. So it's got a better chance of surviving the storm coming on. Not surviving, but just not getting whipped around so much in there. I think that's gonna be a lot more ready for a little bit of wind. Still got a good wingspan out there, but not as much up top. That's really what topples it over so much. I actually have it surrounded by rocks where I have it at. But with all that apical growth, it really does get top heavy. Hopefully these longer branches I'm leaving down here don't affect it so much. I would like it to start making it a little bit wider at the bottom than at the top. Even though when I do look at most of these pictures of what they look like in like Puerto Rico, you know, where they're native to, they do have kind of a more of a rounded canopy look than a broad canopy look. But I'm still going to try and let those bottom branches develop some, and I'll just hang on to this and update this one day. And now here we are back. It's April, I think it's April 2nd or 3rd. I'm very glad I did that prune before the hurricane. It still did get kind of beat up during the storm, but not having the extra foliage on there really did help it a lot. It didn't get beat up too bad. It did get an incredible amount of growth on it, and then that survived the freeze, but then it actually kind of like shriveled up after the freeze. It wasn't really a freeze. It was it didn't quite freeze here. It got close to freezing. It seemed to dry up afterwards and just doesn't really like those dry months of December, January, and February all that much. It started getting a little growth spurt here. This is the only active limb it's really got growing right now is this one. The rest of them all are alive. Not really doing all that much, although I am seeing like a little hint of red in some of the thorn areas, which is where the nodes are, so maybe getting ready to have a growth spurt. I don't know, but I've decided I want to go ahead and repot it. I've had it for close to 2 years now. It's a little underpotted, I think, in my opinion, although when I look at the other trees that are available at the nursery, they also have them in some very tight-fitting pots. So I'm just going to step up in bullpen with it. Prune it a bit first here. You can see it's got the main trunk, and then it's got 1, 2, 3, and 4 branches coming off of the main trunk, and then there's this shoot here coming off just below the big chop that they gave it, probably when they dug it up, and then it's got a longer branch on the bottom of it there, and then everything else is kind of forming the crown on the top. I'd like to prune everything, but I don't want to prune much off of these bottom branches. I want to try to see if I can keep them a little bit wider than the crown on top. And so I'm going to prune them first, trying to keep in mind that I don't want to go back all that far with them. Didn't take much off of that. I just wanted to directionally get it going that way if I could. And then here's the long branch that comes off first. Got some movement in it there, and then with a chop there. And then the rest I'm going to cut back just a bit more than I did there. I'm going to lose a little bit of movement up top here, but I don't want... I feel like some of the shoots are just getting a little bit too long for my goals of the tree. And give you guys a little bit of a closer look there before I go to repot it. This side of the trunk is kind of smooth. Not really all that much of any features with it. This side I really like. You can see the different veins in the tree. From what I understand about this tree is also called Logwood, in that the wood actually sinks. Like, I've tried to work that scar just a little bit, but that was even before I figured out that this is some of the hardest wood. That's what she said, right? But this is some of the hardest wood that exists. That's why they call it logwood. And it'll get live veins in it where, like, for instance, if you were able to kill off one of these branches, you would see the dieback in the trunk, and the other live veins would continue to carry on the tree, kind of similar to where some junipers will develop and things like that. I wanted to repot it just because it's been close to a couple years since I've had it. It's in organic soil. It's one of these things where I notice if I skip a day, I've been watering it every day since it's gotten hot. If I skip a day, it'll really show it in the foliage. And then if when I water it every day, this organic soil that it's in really can start looking kind of a little mucky. It's still been draining well. But again, like I said, I'd like to get into something a little bit bigger. All right, so here we go. I have taken a look at this recently, so I know what I'm expecting to see. I'm just kind of wondering if I can even show you guys what it is I'm talking about and why I decided to repot it. You see some air, like a gap in here. I guess when I did pull it up and take the peek, I didn't realize that the roots aren't that white, and I guess maybe I always pot all my stuff, most of my trees in bonsai substrate. Of course, a nursery that's keeping pre-bonsai stuff is always going to keep it in soil like this, more efficient, easier to ship, all that kind of stuff. And it just looked like it wasn't producing a whole lot of roots. It's now that I've kind of dug in it just a little bit, a little healthier than I thought. Interesting in the fact that I thought that there would be a lot bigger root deeper than that. I did say I was going to go kind of timid with it. This is, I don't like to discuss money all that much, but this is the most money I've spent on a tree. I mean, kind of unbelievable to say, being that it's not nearly quite as aesthetic as many of my trees are. I don't think I have great trees, but I think I've got some decent ones. It just so happened that a lot of them I got lucky in making from cuttings or from nursery stock. And this one I kind of just invested in because it piqued my interest. Said I don't want to go too brave with it. And I figure if this recovers really well, when I'll know the limits I can kind of push whenever I do go to put it in a bonsai pot. Does seem to be one root really good and wrapped around. I'd like to try to untangle that if I could a little. And now I'm getting the impression once I do that, it's going to fall apart to almost nothing. It does appear that that's most of the root ball. Alright, I'm going to get it in this guy here just a tad wider than that other pot it was in. Hopefully it grows a little bit of a better root ball than it has so far. Definitely don't want to dig into that any further than I did. I'm already kind of nervous I did too much. Alright, before I wrap things up, I did want to give you guys a little bit of a closer look at the trunk and what I'm talking about with the live veins and how you can see some separation there. This side isn't as blemished. Looks a little bit better, looks a little more like a traditional trunk you might want. But I do find this side a little bit more interesting, and I do think of this one as being the front. And so somewhere around there will wind up being the front.